Welcome to today's Explainer. Get ready because we are looking at a discovery that literally rewrote our entire understanding of history. We're going to examine the evidence, follow the timeline, and explore an artifact that totally defied everything experts thought they knew about the ancient world. So what if someone told you that an ancient computer existed more than 2,000 years ago? I mean, it sounds like pure science fiction, right? A machine so impossibly advanced that experts firmly believed absolutely nothing like it should have existed back then. But it did. Hidden beneath the sea for centuries, the discovery of this impossible machine forced historians to completely rethink the technological achievements of ancient Greece. Okay, let's dive into this. The artifact in question is the Antikythera Mechanism, which is a true 2,000-year-old mystery. And this brings up some major foundational questions for us today. Who actually built it? What on earth was it designed to do? Actually, scratch that. Perhaps the most important question is, how could such incredibly advanced technology exist over 2,000 years ago? Well, to figure that out, we need to go back to the very beginning of the story. Section 1. A dangerous discovery, the 1900 shipwreck. Right, so our story begins in the year 1900. A crew of Greek sponge divers are making a really treacherous dive near the island of Antikythera, and they stumble upon this massive shipwreck. Almost immediately, they start the incredibly arduous process of recovering cargo from the ocean floor. But, it wasn't actually until 1901 that they made their most critical discovery. It was an object that initially just looked like a crusty piece of debris they simply called the rock. To understand why this rock was so easily overlooked, you really have to consider the sheer, astonishing scale of the ancient loot they recovered from this wreck. We are talking about breathtaking ancient statues, exquisite pottery, fine jewelry, and historic coins. So among all these dazzling, instantly recognizable treasures of antiquity, there was also this heavily corroded bronze object, encrusted with sediment and centuries of oceanic decay, and sitting right next to these gleaming coins and statues. This corroded lump of bronze simply looked like an ordinary, completely unremarkable rock. This perfectly illustrates the massive shock that was waiting for the archaeological world. On the outside, it appeared to be an unremarkable, corroded rock. But inside, archaeologists discovered intricate bronze gears hidden entirely within that stone-like shell. I mean, you can just imagine the absolute ripple effect through the scientific community when they finally realized what was actually hiding within that stone. Section 2. An engineering marvel. 2nd century BCE technology. Through extensive research, archaeologists dated this mechanism all the way back to the 2nd century BCE, right in the era of Hellenistic Greece. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that hidden inside that corroded rock were more than 30 interlocking bronze gear wheels. Think about that for a second. Creating even a few interlocking gears requires an immense understanding of mathematics and metallurgy. Over 30 of them working in perfect harmony, that's a level of complexity experts thought was completely impossible for a society living over 2,000 years ago. No way, right? The physical craftsmanship of the device is just staggering. Originally, it was housed in a wooden casing, and it was covered in delicate ancient inscriptions. It was essentially an ancient user manual written right onto the device itself. And most remarkably, well, it was a completely hand-operated mechanism. Someone literally physically turned a crank to set these interlocking gears into motion. Let that sink in for a moment. Section 3. Peering inside the stone. How modern science intervened. So because the corrosion was so severe, physically opening the artifact would have completely destroyed it. Modern researchers had to step in and use technology that the ancient Greeks couldn't have even dreamed of. First, X-ray imaging successfully penetrated that deeply corroded exterior, giving scientists their very first real shadows of the gears inside. Then, high-resolution CT scanning stepped in to reveal the intricate, three-dimensional internal structure of the bronze gears, layer by layer. And they did all of this without ever having to touch the fragile artifact. A real game-changer. Section 4. The first analog computer, rethinking ancient capabilities. When researchers brought all this structural evidence together, the 30-plus interlocking gears, the precision craftsmanship, the hand-cranked operation, they reached a staggering conclusion. An analog computer is defined as a device that uses continuous physical phenomena, like the mechanical motion of gears, to model and calculate complex problems. So the crucial point is, by applying this modern definition to a 2nd century BCE artifact, Historians now widely refer to the Antikythera Mechanism as the world's first known analog computer. But here is the really fascinating twist in the story. Modern CT scans and X-rays showed us the gears and the math, sure, but discovering exactly how it was built only deepened the mystery. While we finally understand the physical construction of the artifact, that physical understanding has basically opened up this massive, profound historical void. This leaves us with some incredibly dramatic, unanswered questions staring us right in the face. If this is indeed an ancient analog computer, what exactly could this incredible machine calculate? I mean, what was so important to the ancient Greeks that they felt the need to engineer 30-plus interlocking gears just to figure it out? What was the actual hidden purpose of the Antikythera mechanism? And finally, who possessed the immense knowledge to create technology centuries ahead of its time? This wasn't just a lucky invention. It required an absolute master of mathematics, astronomy, and engineering. Who was the genius behind the bronze? These are the provocative mysteries that we simply cannot leave unanswered. And that is exactly why these questions will lead us right into part 2 of this Explainer series. I absolutely can't wait to see you there as we finally uncover what this ancient computer actually did. Welcome back, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here for another Explainer. Today, we're returning to one of the most captivating mysteries in all of human history, the Antikythera Mechanism. If you're a focused learner who loves dissecting exactly how things work, well, you're going to absolutely love the structural genius we're about to unpack today. We're looking at a device so ridiculously far ahead of its time, it literally forces us to rewrite the history books. The greatest mystery of the Antikythera Mechanism isn't that it survived beneath the sea for over 2,000 years. It's that someone in the ancient world possessed the knowledge to build it. Okay, let's dive into this, because that quote perfectly frames the true enigma of our investigation today. It's not just a story of survival. It's a story of an impossible level of knowledge. Part 1. The impossible ancient computer. So let's briefly recap what we're actually looking at here. This is an ancient Greek artifact that completely shatters our modern understanding of early human engineering. To really wrap our heads around the brilliance of this machine, we have to look at the user experience. Imagine you're holding a wooden box. On the outside, there's just one simple hand crank. But when you turn that single crank, you're simultaneously operating dozens of hidden, interlocking precision gears inside the casing. The striking contrast here between the incredibly simple act of turning a dial on the outside and the sheer, staggering complexity of all that bronze gearwork moving in perfect synchronization on the inside, it's just wild. It leaves modern scientists completely amazed. Part 2, calculating the cosmos. So, what exactly was this incredible machine built to do? Why go through all the trouble of cutting dozens of precise, interlocking bronze gears? Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the sheer variety of data this singular mechanism tracked. By simply turning that hand crank, the user could calculate the exact movements of the sun through the zodiac. They could track the phases of the moon, they could predict both lunar and solar eclipses, but it didn't even stop at the cosmos. It also tracked human cultural events, aligning ancient calendars and even predicting the exact future dates of the Olympic Games. It's like a giant puzzle, all perfectly connected. To pull this off, these ancient engineers had to understand and mechanize some incredibly complex astronomy. Take the Metonic cycle, for example. This is a highly complex 19-year astronomical cycle used to mathematically align lunar months with solar years. The builders didn't just understand this mathematical concept on parchment. They somehow figured out how to calculate it and literally cut that 19-year cycle into the physical teeth of bronze gears. I mean, wow. And then we have the Saros cycle. This is an 18-year cycle used to accurately predict the timing of lunar and solar eclipses. So the crucial point is this. The user of this mechanism could turn a crank and mechanically predict an eclipse that wouldn't happen for decades. They were literally using a machine to peer into the future of the cosmos with absolute precision. Part 3. Who built the mechanism? This brings us to the suspects in our historical detective mystery. A machine that basically shouldn't exist forces us to ask, who was the mastermind behind it? Let's look at the leading suspects in the ancient world. First up, we've got two absolute heavyweights of antiquity. On one hand, Hipparchus. He was a legendary astronomer, and the astronomical data encoded in the machine closely matches his theories, making him a prime candidate. But on the other hand, we have Archimedes, the genius mathematician and inventor. The mechanical brilliance required to design these gear trains, it perfectly aligns with Archimedes' legendary reputation for engineering. But maybe it wasn't just a single famous guy. Another leading theory points to the School of Rhodes. This was a massive intellectual hub in the ancient world where great minds collaborated. Or, alternatively, the creator might just be some completely unknown, incredibly brilliant Hellenistic engineer whose name has just been lost to time. While scholarly theories present strong evidence for each of these possibilities, it's really important to clarify that no definitive answer exists. The identity of the creator remains a ghost in the machine. Part 4. The Lost Millennium of Technology. Now, not knowing who built it is a mystery, sure, but the real tragedy is what happens next. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive technological blind spot that changes how we view human progress. The staggering reality of this loss is hard to overstate. The Antikythera Mechanism dates back to the 1st century BC, but the next time we see geared clockwork devices of this complexity appear in the historical record, it's the 14th century AD, in the form of European medieval clockwork. That is a technological gap of over 1,000 years, where this level of machinery completely disappeared from the world. Part 5. Debunking Myths and Legends. Because a gap this massive is going to breed some wild theories. When you have a technological gap this huge, human nature just kind of steps in, right? A void of 1,000 years inevitably breeds those fringe, internet-famous theories to explain how a device this advanced could possibly exist in the ancient Mediterranean. So we got to ask the questions that pop up everywhere. Was it built by ancient aliens sharing their cosmic secrets on a layover? Was it some relic from a lost super-civilization like Atlantis? Or, hey, maybe it was dropped by a careless time traveler who forgot their smartwatch. No. The answer from mainstream historians is a swift, definitive no. We don't need aliens or time travelers to explain this stuff. The real history is already extraordinary enough on its own. Honestly, dismissing this as alien technology actually robs humanity of one of its greatest achievements. Human ingenuity, when given the right conditions and brilliant minds, is just that incredible. We did this. Part 6. Unlocking the Future. Let's move to and see how this builds, because the investigation into this device is still highly active today. We aren't just relying on what we can see on the surface anymore. Modern scientists are utilizing cutting-edge X-ray and 3D imaging technology to literally peer right through the corroded rock and bronze. And by doing so, they're constantly revealing new secrets. They're finding previously unread ancient inscriptions hidden deep inside the casing, which is essentially uncovering the user manual for the machine. Plus, they're continuing to uncover hidden internal engineering details that tell us exactly how these Hellenistic engineers solved complex mechanical problems. As we look at these new scans and piece together this puzzle, it leaves us with a really profound realization about our own past. More than 2,000 years ago, brilliant minds created a machine that would not be matched for over a millennium. The Antikythera Mechanism is not just an ancient computer. It is proof that human curiosity and ingenuity have always pushed the boundaries of what seemed possible. This has been Mystery Vault. Until next time, keep questioning history.